just on a theoretical level, questions that you feel are aimed to qualify you or disqualify you, I say let them qualify you or disqualify you. I mean, the age thing is funny though, because it's one of those things where a lot of women intellectually decide he's too old, but emotionally it doesn't really matter much. And so I think, but I still think there's no reason to hold it back or to pretend that age difference isn't there. And if you feel like you're being disqualified for it, then use that as an opportunity to talk about it. Say like, do you feel that's too old? Why do you feel that's too old? You know, what age is too old? Why is that number too old? Like, what if 30 is too old? What if you met a 31-year-old guy who makes you happier than a 28-year-old guy? Well, then what if you met a 33-year-old guy who made you happier too? See, it's all very arbitrary, and it's people are, as people, we try to put intellectual boundaries and limits, but really it's an emotional decision. So I almost think just whether you answer it or not is actually kind of inconsequential. The main issue is, how does she feel around you, and how does she feel, because even if she's okay with you being 15 years older, at some point you're going to have to deal with the age gap. Whether she accepts it or not initially, if you're going to be together, you have to both like reach a place where you're okay with it, or that you can deal with it. So, and the only way you do that is by openly talking about it, openly discussing it. So, I have a friend who he's a much older guy. He's like 52, but he looks like he's about 42, and he regularly dates women like 28 to 35. And he used to just not say anything. He just kind of let him guess or whatever, and that's fine for a little while, I think. You know, as long as it's done playfully, or you're not like lying or like hiding or anything. But you know, ultimately it comes out, and what he's found is, he said that, you know, there are women, it's a bit of an emotional hurdle, a bit of an intellectual hurdle, and there's some women who can jump that hurdle, and there's some that can't. And he said whether it comes out on the second hour or the second date or the second month, either they can jump the hurdle or they can't. So it's he doesn't really see any reason to delay it anymore, basically. It wasn't any specific moment. So I first started, like, I came from a PUA background, and I did the whole performance thing for many years, and then I slowly kind of got more natural, but I was still compensating, I was still performing, and then I started to discover this stuff around 2009, 2010, and that's also when I started traveling and getting exposed to all these different cultures and realizing, oh, all these like performance things that I do in the US that are attractive are really unattractive in this culture. And I started writing about this stuff 2010 or so, but it was 2011. There was not a specific moment, but I took a trip to Europe. I did like a 3.5 month trip to Europe. I'd been traveling for about a year and a half. Did like a 3.5 month trip to Europe, and it was like, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was just like, it was like vagina was just falling out of the sky, and I wasn't doing anything. Like, that was the craziest part about it, was that I was walking around just like being chill, doing my thing, and girls were just like jumping on it over and over again. And I mean, I've been writing about this stuff and kind of been shooting for it, but that was when I was like, wow, I really internalized this. And it was weird because I remember going, like, I was traveling from country to country, I was partying a lot. And I remember there was like a 3-week period where I honestly believed that I had not been rejected in 3 weeks. And then when I sat down and really started thinking about it, I've been rejected all over the place. Like, just girls turning me down left and right, but it didn't even register anymore. Like, I didn't even perceive it as rejection anymore. I just perceived it as like me talking to girls who weren't right for me. And like, that's when I was like, this is some powerful shit. It's coincidentally when I wrote my book. I was writing my book at the same time. And like, I knew I was going to write a book, but then I got to Europe and I was like, I need to write this shit down. Like, this is serious stuff. Like, this changes everything. So yeah, it would be that trip. So remember, no behavior is inherently attractive or unattractive. What's attractive or unattractive is the intention. It's the why. Why are you doing it? It's also the how. How are you doing it? So, question is, how do you approach a woman? How do you show interest in a woman without seeming desperate or needy or anything like that? The way you show interest in a woman without seeming desperate or needy is by not being desperate or needy. It's like by internally experiencing the emotion of not feeling desperate or needy. I was talking earlier about how authenticity is like giving a gift, or it's unconditional. And so desperation or neediness is when you approach a woman or hit on a woman thinking, I hope she likes me, I'm going to say this, I hope she likes me, I said I liked her, I hope she likes me. With no desperation, no neediness, it's just like, hey, I just want it to be known to the world that I find you attractive. And if you would ever choose to act on that, I would be receptive to it. You know, and it doesn't sound any different. It may not even look different. You know, it's like when I approach a woman, it's basically like, hey, my name's Mark. How are you? You having a good night? I think you're really cute. Are you from here? Oh, that's cool. I travel a lot. I've been here. It doesn't sound any different. It probably doesn't look very different. The only difference is that I don't try to control it. I don't try to like hold it. You know, if things veer off and she starts to find me incredibly unattractive, or I start to find her incredibly unattractive, I don't try to correct it. I don't try to pull it back in front of me. I'm just like, oh, there she goes. And then I go talk to the next one. And it's oddly a little bit Zen-like, where you're just unattached to the perception. And you know, obviously it's a process to get there. Like, you got to deal with the anxiety and the discomfort. You got to open up and work on the vulnerability. But after a certain amount of time, I mean, you eventually do get, it's like I said, that process. Eventually, everything just goes okay. I mean, girl throws a drink in your face, threesome on the beach, like, it's okay. It's life. It's people meeting, coming together, having compatibilities, incompatibilities, sharing themselves on various levels, and it's fine. Yeah, you just tell her, I'm not looking for anything serious.
Yeah.
I want to have fun. And yeah, you're going to lose some. Some will be like, I'm not interested in that. And that's okay. Not compatible. It's fine. It's nothing on you. It's nothing personal. The thing is even if they're not into it, this is the ironic thing. This is such an ironic thing. And we're going to talk about this more tomorrow. When you come out, when you're able to be vulnerable and express that, say, look, I think you're really cute, I like you, but I'm not looking for anything serious, I'm just looking to have fun. They may not want that, but the fact that you express that and were vulnerable about that will actually turn them on and make them more receptive to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things, sometimes I get questions about like shit tests. You know, they're like, what do you do if a woman is like testing you or fucking with you to see how you react? I'm like, I reject her. I dump her. And they're like, what? No, you can't do that. I'm like, I don't want to deal with manipulation, so I dump them. And I tell them that. I say, you're manipulating me, I don't want to deal with it, and I dump them. And the ironic thing is probably 50% of the time they say, no, I'm sorry, I won't do that anymore. And they come back and they're authentic and they're real and they're open with me. And so it's when the person who has the strength to be vulnerable and open up and talk about their needs openly, it gives the other person permission to do the same. And then you can actually see if there's any overlap in what you want and what she wants. And sometimes there won't be, and that's okay. And sometimes there will be, and that's cool too. So I openly express it. And there are, tons of girls out there who are like, fuck it, let's do shots, let's have fun. You know, like they're everywhere. Like you can find them. So. Post-masculine. Good question. So, Post-masculine is my website. It's also my blog. It has a lot of articles about all this stuff that we're talking about. I was initially, like I said, I was a pickup coach. I had a pickup business. My business was called Practical Pickup. About 2 years ago, I decided, I started, after I'd written my book and gotten into all this stuff, I started to realize that these concepts, they apply beyond dating. Feelings of inadequacy, performing, vulnerability, like these things, they apply with work relationships, friendships, family relationships. And I also began to see that although men kind of suffered from a lack of emotional literacy with dating, that men really just kind of, like I said in the seminar, like in our culture, we're raised to kind of be emotional idiots. Like we're raised to not deal with it. We're encouraged to not deal with it. We're told that you're a pussy and it's shameful and don't talk about it. And so I saw like a much broader need beyond simply dating. And so the whole idea of post-masculine is that there's this idea of masculinity. Be tough, be strong, be stoic, all of these things. And there are a lot of people in the dating advice world, but also just in culture, who say, men aren't men anymore, or men need to be more masculine, or you need to be more masculine. You need to be alpha. You need to be, you need to man up. All these things. You hear these things thrown around. But it's my opinion, and what I started to realize is that masculinity is it might not be the solution anymore. Like it may have been the solution 50 years ago when we'd like farm and work in factories and stuff. But life is more complicated now. Relationships are more complicated, and so men need to step up and actually go beyond masculinity, simply go beyond being like strong and stoic, and actually deal with some of this deeper stuff and become more evolved. So that's kind of the idea, is that it's like the next evolution of masculinity.
Would you say that masculinity is a kind of a performance?
Is masculinity a performance? I would say masculinity encourages us to perform. It puts social pressure on us to perform. And the reason it does that is it encourages us to act in ways that are not congruent with our emotions. And that's psychologically unhealthy. And that's actually, the book I'm writing now is all about that. Is masculinity puts social pressures on us that encourage low self-esteem and encourage poor ability to deal with emotions. And you actually see this, there's a whole another side to the gender thing, where, like men commit suicide at like a rate of like 8 to 1 of women. It's like 80% of the homeless population is men. There's 3 times more male alcoholics than women. It's like twice as many drug addicts are men. Basically anything that involves failure to deal with your like internal stuff, men outnumber women like way, big time. Violence, like men commit like 90% of the violent crime. 99% of rapes are committed by men. So it's I mean the evidence is there. Like on a population level, men are not handling their emotional shit very well. And my argument in the new book is that a lot of these classic ideas of masculinity, you know, man up, suck it up, don't be a pussy, don't be weak, contributes to that. And whereas 200 years ago, it made sense because we needed soldiers and we needed farmers and we needed machinists, like now we don't. Now we all sit in cubicles and like post on Facebook. Like we don't need that shit anymore. And actually in the new economy, it's hurting us. So anyway.